Hey everybody, it's the Trout, and welcome to another episode of the Trout Show. Thank you very much for stopping by. You know, when I was a kid, my parents had an old record player that could play 78 records. And as a young, very young person, I used to listen to the songs from Ella Fitzgerald to Bing Crosby. But one band in particular caught my listening ear, and it was a band called Spike Jones. That was the guy's name. And they had some music that they did. They were very famous in the 40s and 50s, and even I think into the early 60s. But they did goofy songs about things about, made fun of different people, musicians, and all that stuff. And the records did very, very well. And the gentleman I interviewed today, Jake Vanaman, who's with a band called Kendall Street Company, kind of reminded me of that when I listened to that when I was a kid. This band is an eclectic band. And they play goofy music, but they also play some very serious music. And they'll tell you they do everything from John Prine style to Frank Zappa to Pink Floyd, so it's kind of all over the place. But the thing about it is they're very, very good musicians. And every once in a while they slip in a very great song. You can tell real quick these guys aren't fooling around except when they're fooling around. So I think you'll enjoy this, and I hope you like their music. But before we get to Kendall Street Company, please, if you like this episode, give me a thumbs up. If you like my channel, please subscribe. It's much appreciated. So up next, is it a goofy band or is it a serious band? You'll have to decide. Kendall Street Company, that's next on The Trout Show. What was it about them that attracted you to perform? I mean, they're not, and we're going to get to that in a second, but they're not your basic, let's just do some rock, let's do some pop, let's do indie pop. They're kind of all over the place. But what was it about for you?
Yeah.
You went, oh, okay, other than they had a lot of people listening to them.
Well, I didn't in the time like going into college, like I was leaving behind my other bands and like mostly I was just like I'm willing to try anything for like a while and just see like where I fit in Charlottesville and who I like get to know people like because you have to start somewhere. So like I
Sure.
didn't know that I was gonna stick with it,
Yeah.
when I first gave it a shot. And I think that's a healthy approach to artistic situations
Sure.
where we can, want to be able to let a great relationship form, but it doesn't have to if the spark's not there. Um, so I like when I joined them, like I said, they had the one album out and they had the EP, and all that stuff was like relatively soft uh, compared to what we do now, I would
Mm-hmm.
say.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so like I wasn't even sure what they wanted me to do on the saxophone. I was like, hey, am I going to be playing like kind of like long tones and stuff? Like back then I was just not as knowledgeable too, so I my vocabulary was limited both musically and speech wise to
Yeah.
discuss music.
Yeah.
Um, so like it really was just like I'm gonna try this and see if it goes well. Like they are making money, which at the time, like going into as a first year in college, I was like, okay, word, like I've got some
Yeah.
extra income here doing like what I already love to do.
Yep.
And I was toying with the idea of pursuing music as a real career. I
Yeah.
hadn't really made up my mind yet about what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to study it at least at college,
Mm-hmm.
um, alongside other things. And they kind of like showed me that that was possible because they had just graduated and were doing it full time. If they had like another part-time job, yes, but also like music is the main thing. Um, and so that kind of like inspired me, and I don't know, I felt like a younger brother mostly, even
Mm-hmm.
though I'm an only child, so I've never actually felt what that feels like, but this is what I imagine it feels like.
Yeah.
Uh, so those are kind of the main reasons. Like musically, at the same time, like they were very open to me contributing ideas, and that's important to me, especially because previously I have been the band leader, and like typically in I will start the band in other side projects that I've done
Yeah.
or worked with.
Yep.
And so that was an unusual experience for me where I wasn't the band leader, which is fine, or the front man, because typically I'll be the one who talks to the crowd in my other projects. Um, and I don't do that as much in this band, which is interesting. And I kind of like that about it, where I can kind of just take it back. a back-ish seat, and I can talk if I need to or want to, but I'm not like, that's not my role. And so that was intriguing to me too, because like in some ways it's less work.
Listening to the band, um, and it comes to this band that you're in now, which has been fairly
Hmm.
successful. They're moving up. Does everybody do this for a living? Or I'm just curious, does everybody have side jobs still and they do this? Or where are you kind of in
Yeah,
that?
we have various kinds of like avenues of income. So like for me, I also like as a sax player, I record on other people's songs, and
Mm,
I'm also like a producer. So
there you
I'll
go.
do studio, I'll engineer other people.
Yep.
So that's kind of something that I do on the side, but mostly touring. And I also have like a remote job that I do like 10 hours a week at,
Okay.
totally internet based. And I can do that while I tour, which is what I love about it.
Mm,
So like we'll have like an off, like not an or an off day, and I
yeah.
can get out and I still feel like I can be productive.
Right.
And it's like mindless, so it doesn't require any creativity from me. That's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. Like I love doing the sound production, I love like
Yeah.
playing sax on other people's records and stuff, but that requires a good deal of effort, like creative effort, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like I try to reserve that as much as possible for KSC shows, because I find them to be the most important, and that's when I want to be playing my best. I always want to be playing my best, but there is a limit. Like I feel like,
Well, if you've already, when you're a producer, they don't hire you or you're not doing it just to sit around and go, yeah, that sounds good, use that. You're there to make,
yeah,
I mean, and a lot of people don't know what a producer does. But the one
yeah,
thing I've told everybody, you got to have a leader in a band, even if it's the guy that says, the drummer, you count it off, or we're going to end it on this note. Somebody has to tell you that, or you just, or you just go off on a tangent. Who was your idol when you played sax? Who was the one you said, "Oh, I love that guy," or who was it that you liked, or still do?
so it's changed throughout the years, because I used to play mostly alto
Mm-hmm.
sax. That's what I like learned on, and now I play tenor. I got a tenor when I joined these guys, because they had previously had a tenor player, wanted another tenor player. I
Sure.
wanted to play tenor anyways, so it was a good mix. Um, but I think so. I started out like really liking Sonny Stitt on alto. I think he's got great tone. Like, and I play my alto and my tenor and my bari for that matter very differently than each other.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the tenor, I really go for like a growlier, like more aggressive rock tone, and like the alto, I feel like I've got like a cleaner, softer approach to playing with it. So you got Coltrane in there.
Yeah.
He's such a great player, I love him. Also Michael Brecker.
Oh yeah.
Um, he's a great like example of pushing sax to the limit and using like electric and guitar pedal world
Mm-hmm.
and effects and all that. He does that very tastefully. And I think like a modern version of him is like Jeff Coffin, and he's a great player too. Whenever I come across a video, it's just killing. It's just shocking to me how much I still don't know about like the history of music. And that like my friends are like, you don't know this record? It's like, nah, I've never heard of it
Yeah.
before. Like,
But
um,
I think the thing about it is you're smart because I can tell you over the years I've met younger players and I'll mention people because I always study a lot of guitar players, all the way from classical like Andre Segovia that, was a phenomenal player or he was Spanish and all that stuff, but played classical music to, people like Chet Atkins and Les Paul and people like that to Jimi Hendrix, and kind of follow where it's goes. So you can kind of have conversations. It's like you mentioned the jazz players. I know you're talking about. And I'm a firm believer that you will learn from them, not
yeah.
necessarily, but you can learn the history of why not learn the history of what you're doing. But the one thing I noticed about the band, as you say KSC instead of KFC,
Yeah.
it's almost, and this was one of the questions I have for you. It's almost like the band wants to be kind of fun, but they want to be taken seriously at the same time. Because when I start listening to you guys play, and I forgot, well, I know what it was, that tune that you did about somebody's dad that comes to your
Oh, Becca's dad, yeah.
Becca's dad. I'm listening to that and going, well, it's kind of a stupid title, but the guy's walking out and all that. But then I start hearing you play, and I go, okay, they're serious about this, but they
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
I
want
think you nailed it. Yeah.
I mean, but it's kind of like it's almost like it's a joke, but not really. And it's like
Yeah,
when you're doing
yeah, pretty
Becca's,
much.
I mean, it's kind of like we're going to be funny, but we're going to be serious about what we're doing. Being funny is kind of what it is. And you
Yeah,
read your
yeah.
bio and you were talking about Grateful Dead, and I never was a huge fan of theirs, but they talk about Frank Zappa and all these people, and you're like, okay, Zappa, Grateful Dead, and you start putting them all together. You're like, there's no, other than the fact they're musicians, there's no there's no line between. It's like, okay, but I think that's what makes up a great band to a certain degree, because and I may be completely wrong on this. I think the
No,
reason you guys have
I think
done,
you're describing it so well. I think you nailed it on the head when you said like we want to be funny but also taken seriously. Like that's perfect. Yeah. That's what we
and,
want.
well, because when the gentleman was playing, I played. There's one right there. I play
Okay.
slide, and when he started playing slide, I go, okay, this is somebody who knows what they're doing. This isn't something like, if you want to go back and check back in the 40s and Spike Jones, where they all made fun of each other and made Spike Jones records, but they were all great musicians. So
Yeah.
it's almost like a dichotomy. I'm sure people come to hear you, have never heard you before you start out, and you start doing stuff, and then all of a sudden they go, well, that's funny. And then all of a sudden you're like, well, they're, dang, they're really good at what they do. So is that the kind of the approach when you guys do stuff? I mean, you obviously are having fun what you're doing.
Yeah, so it really depends what song is going to be played, but for the most part, our live show is supposed to be engaging and like fun and a little bit ridiculous, a little bit hilarious. There's supposed to be some like interaction between the crowd and us. We like to go for that. But at the same time, we're going to melt your face.
Yeah.
Like that's the goal.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be laughing and on the floor, hopefully dancing. But it's not super intentional at the same time. Every now and then it is very intentional, but it's also just the nature of the songs. Like that's why it depends so much what gets played, because there are some songs that we play that are very not funny, and they're not supposed to be funny, and we don't play them with any kind of hilariousness associated with them because it's like that's all serious. Um, but those don't tend to make their way into the live show as much per
Hmm.
se. Like we very much respect the studio for what it is,
Ah,
and what it can do. And then like the live show is slightly in its own world, might I say. Um, but so some examples of like really stupid songs. We also consider them just to be stupid. Like it's supposed to be the point of the exercise is that everybody knows it's stupid and we're all still doing it. Like
ah,
that's what you get out of the experience of coming to the KSC show
yeah.
sometimes. So we have this song called Stanley Bird Dog Mouth parentheses he's an oyster, and that's literally the name of the song. And there's a little dance and it just goes right into the words, and it's like you're so high, I'm an oyster, and Lewis and I do this little dance. And then we sing that like multiple times, and
Yeah.
then we go to a very, very, very simple chorus, and then it goes to this guitar solo, and uh, every time like it's a joke that like Ben is the guitarist. He plays like a really bad solo. Like he plays specifically like a it's bad, but it's perfect for what it is doing.
No,
You know
I
what I
got it.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we all like go over on stage and we're looking at him like this. We're acting a little bit. We're like, wow, what's going on? And then at the very end of the solo, Lewis says like, great job, buddy, or something like that. Like there's a congratulations, like a overblown, like you did so well. Like even because the joke is that he played like a really bad
No.
sounding solo, traditionally speaking, and compared to the rest of the set. So I think there's a lot of a humor in the contrast between like humor and value for a fan of ours, like in the contrast between our songs. Because you'll get that, and then the very next song could be the super serious song. Like it's happened, and it will happen again. Because we don't write set lists, we just write idea lists, and then we just choose from the idea list
Oh
on
wow.
stage. We have talkback mics, so we can talk to
Oh so
ourselves
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah,
and be like,
you
"Hey,
know,
let's
you
do this
remind me
next."
though.
Yeah.
This is probably, and you can think about this. You can't play that bad unless you're really good.
Also, that's why it's funny too, because it's like everybody knows that Ben can shred and he doesn't need to be playing. It's like a 4-note repeating motif that he does. Like it's really hard to describe because it's not bad because it's not like he's not playing the wrong notes or
No,
anything.
he's playing
It's
in
just that it's
key.
like,
It's
yeah, yeah,
weird, and it
yeah.
kind
It's
of
just like a
reminds me of.
little
Well, I was going to
dense.
say,
It's
I was told
dense.
this years ago by a younger musician. You play the hard stuff for yourself and the easy stuff for the crowd.
That's kind
So
of true. Yeah.
I mean, because the average person doesn't care what key you're in. They don't know the difference between a C, D, and F, or if you modulate it up. They don't care. So in your situation, your band, the band you're in, is just the same way. We're going to play the goofy stuff for the fans, and then we're going to throw in some really good stuff that we love because we're really good musicians. And
Yeah,
it
yeah.
almost plays into that kind of thought process. And obviously it's working, right?
Thank you. Yeah. I feel like we're connected. I mean, even hearing you like describe it back to me, like gives me validation. Like it's like, yes, like there are people out there who get like exactly what we're trying to do, kind of. I like that. Yeah.
Well, I think as a musician, if it's there, there are some things you have to do for yourself. And can I go into a 10-minute riff on a lead guitar part? Sure. But after a while, people go, okay, I'm sick of hearing it.
Yeah, you
So
get bored.
you get
Yeah.
bored. So people get bored with. So you got to put some energy in some other things. As soon as I started listening to you guys, I went, okay, I know what's going on here. I mean, because now you got to remember, I've been a musician a long time, but it
Yeah, yeah.
works. But don't you play keys too, don't you?
I play keys now. It's not always me playing keys on the records though. I
Okay.
play a keys on some of the records, but not all of the
But I mean,
records.
on live, do you have to play keys very much in live, or you just keep it to the sax, all the
Yeah, I play
saxes?
keys live now too. Yeah. So I've got like a Nord bottom keyboard where I do
Okay.
most of my work, and then I've got a Korg mini log on top for some synth stuff. And like arpeggios, and I've got specific like patches of
Oh yeah, you
sequencers.
can, yeah, just patch them in and play them. Because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always being a blues guy is always a sucker for somebody playing a Hammond.
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
man, I love organ. Yeah,
it's
it's
like
so good.
it's when they start and somebody brings that big old thing out and they're rolling it out with the Leslie speakers. I'm going, oh, this is going to be good, because it's like,
I'd love to have a Leslie one day. That's the dream right there. I think that'd
well,
be
that you
so
talk about
awesome.
something to carry heavy to carry around.
Yeah.
So,
As long as I can pay somebody to carry it around for me, I think I'll get one.
so you guys, where are you now in? Uh, you have something new coming out, right? On the 22nd. Did I remember
Yes.
that right?
The 22nd is the full album releases. So we've had 3 singles come off of that so far. Since like June, the beginning of June was the first one that came out. Yeah. So we're in that album cycle for sure now. And that's actually one that I produced. So
Oh, cool.
uh yeah, I produced and wrote a lot of it. I wrote like at least half of it. Um, and I actually mixed it too. So this was kind of like my project within the context of the band.
So if I don't like the mix, I can email you and go, what were you thinking on that song?
Yeah, I'll probably just I'll take it down from Spotify and I'll make little revisions and we'll try again next year. Not until you're
Well,
happy with it, I think. We haven't been able to have this full experience before. Like most of our sessions, like there's been an engineer and that engineer will like generally provide feedback, but it's not at the extent that like a real dedicated producer would.
right.
So we're looking to on like our next big record to get like a full producer.
Hmm.
We think it'd be great. We actually have a project it's like a 12, 11 or 12 song like prog rock project
Mm.
that we have pitched to Dweezil Zappa. to produce and work with us on. Um, so he's interested, we're interested, and we just got to find the time and money, which I suppose is always the battle, though, right? But it'd be cool to work with him, and he would do a great job for the art, I think.
Dweezil's just been a phenomenal guitar player and probably doesn't get the credit he deserves to be an independent artist that he is.
Yeah,
So, and I don't know, he's got to be, how old is he now? 50,
I want
40
to say
something?
like 50, yeah,
Yeah.
50, somewhere in his 50s.
But if you can get somebody like that, do you think he knows a few people?
Definitely.
So,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, it'd be so great. Yeah. He also said he was gonna mix it in the new like uh 4D Apple sound. You know what I'm talking about? What do
I've
they
heard
call
of
it?
it.
Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah.
surround sound. It's some they have an Atmos, maybe Dolby
Yeah.
Atmos mix. That's what it is, I think. Yeah. So
I,
that'd be
you
cool.
know,
That's minor to me, but cool.
but one of the hardest things for me, and this drives me crazy, you do all this work, you sit in front of your computer, sit in the mixer, you mix it all
For
down, you master it
days,
down, and all that.
days.
You do it
Yeah.
over and over again, and then somebody picks it up and plays it on their iPhone or Samsung out of a speaker that's this big. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh my God. In fact, I've just finished my brand new album. I've sent a cover to my friend, and
Oh yeah.
I'm going to tell him and say, look, here's the deal. Do not listen to this on your phone. I won't send you the links until you tell me you're not going to listen to it. Because you spent all this time for acoustic sounds, great sounds, and then it comes out on a little speaker that big. Or the ones that the
Yeah.
mono stuff that that kind of thing. So
Those
that's
are pretty
another.
common too. Yeah.
Yeah. So then you have to listen to it. Actually, I got to the point where I had it all done except for one tune. And I listened to it. I was sitting outside and I thought, well, I'm going to put it on my phone. So I had to go back and remix it because it what didn't.
Ugh.
I mean, part of the songs I go, okay, the drums are too hard here. They're too back in the back. I got to bring them. Only because it didn't sound that great. And you think, well, everybody's going to listen to it on their phone, you know. And that's another
Yeah,
thing
it's
you have to
somewhat
face as an
necessary.
engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get, are
Yeah,
you
that's pretty difficult for me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a pain in the ass. Because it'll never be that good. You know how good it sounds when you mix it down, whether you're in a studio monitors or headphones, and then it just never going to make it, and it's what it is. So, are you guys going to then go out support this album? Is that what your plan is? I looked at some of your tour dates, but it looks like you got quite a few coming up.
Yeah, so we just did our summer tour, as you said, bands tour in the summer and then they release an album.
Yeah, yep, yep.
And so the album comes out, like we said, on the 22nd, and that'll be like technically the first day of the fall tour. And I think we'll just call it the Separation 95 tour, probably. That's the name of the album.
Yep,
I
I saw
actually
that.
like still have to make the art for that. So I make a lot of the graphic choices for the band too. Um, so it's just something I have like Photoshop experience, and it's something
See,
I've
and now I
found
know why you're
myself.
in the band. You said earlier, well, I'm just the sax player. Now I listen to you and going like, no, you're not. Let's see. I'm the engineer. I'm the producer. I write the songs. Oh, by the way, and I do the graphics for the album covers. Yeah, I'm just the guy that sits in the back and plays a few notes on my sax. Yeah, right.
I do. I like to have my fingers in everything a little bit, like creatively speaking. Because if my like perspective is that like if you can understand those aspects of the business, even on like some rudimentary level,
Yeah,
then it'll help you be a better entertainer.
yeah.
Like my goal is I want to be a good musician, but I care way more about being a good entertainer than I do about being a good musician. Um, and so I'm also a photographer. I shoot photos for like other bands around town. And it's because like I know what they want because I've been on that side of it. Like I've been on the side that is getting the photos and posting the
Yeah,
photos.
yeah.
And also like I want the experience of being the photographer so that when I'm on stage, I know how to interact with them in a way that's comfortable and effective. So that's like one of my other things that I do occasionally for money. It's not a big gig of mine, but I enjoy doing it. And like I like to help out the other bands in town. And I live in Richmond, so there's a lot of
I was
bands
going to ask
here.
you, where's everybody based? Are they all
So
with
I live in
Coach?
Richmond. I moved here last summer, and the rest of the guys live in Charlottesville, which is about an
Okay.
hour west of here.
So are you the rich man from Richmond that the guy talked about on the song? Are you that guy? Are you?
I don't think it's referring to me, but I haven't verified.
I think what's interesting about your band, and I don't want to say your band, but the band in general,
Yeah.
is that you've got this, and I guess the thing is, you guys are going to, I assume, expand your footprint. I know you do a lot of tours on the East Coast and Northeast and all this stuff, but of course, we're back to what's the big problem with that? Money. You
Yeah.
know,
I
you got to
mean,
have
yeah.
somebody support you to be able to tour, or you have enough gigs set up that you go from one to the other so you can play, because it costs a lot of money to travel.
Yeah, I mean, because gas is just a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
cost, like, and places are far away. Like, we just went to Colorado. So Colorado is one of our biggest markets.
Where did you
We will
play in
go to,
Colorado? What towns did you play in? What cities?
we did Manitou Springs,
I know where that
and
is.
then we,
Outside Colorado Springs. Yeah.
yeah, and then we did, oh my gosh, what was the next day? It was Golden,
Okay.
Colorado. So like right outside of Denver.
Yeah, that's where
And then we did,
Coors Beer is. That's where Coors Beer is.
yeah, those records. We played at
Yeah.
a different brewery, but I haven't been to the factory, but I've like had some of their like special Colorado beer or whatever.
Yeah.
It's actually pretty good. So, and then we played Buena Vista, and then we played Denver proper.
I would also think, maybe I'm wrong, but I would think college towns would be perfect for you guys. Big college
Yeah,
universities.
yeah, we play a lot in Georgia, and we'll play in I guess like Georgia and Oxford, Mississippi. We recently played
Yeah,
at.
yeah.
Occasionally we will get like private party offers to go play there. In select like big college towns. And those are pretty fun. They're great for making fans. They're great for selling merch, that's for sure. Um,
You
College
got to
kids
have
love tie
merch.
dyes.
Must have merch. Must have
Yeah,
merch.
merch is so good. Yeah. Merch is how you tour. That's how you tour.
That's exactly right. And it's funny because there's no money in making music. You know,
No, not really.
if you make 1 million streams, you make 3 grand. You're like, if I'd sold 1 million records back in the day, I would have had $400,000 in my pocket. Do you guys use? I know you're using PR people, but do you have a manager that manages the band too and makes all the things happen as far as bookings and all that?
Yeah, so we have a booking agent and we're with Mint Talent Agency, and that's a new move for us. So we just got on there like last month. And that's CJ Strock is his name.
Hmm.
And then our manager is named Erwin Shemenkowitz, and he's at Regime Music Group, which is in Denver. Denver and LA, but he's in
Yeah.
Denver. And then we have a tour manager that comes with us, and she does a hodgepodge of activities such as like sell merch, like help run the sound, and like, generally manage things while we're on stage, and like take photos and videos and things like that, drive the van. So that's the team. That's the whole team right there.
So, well, I know you're young, still a young guy. What's your goal personally? What's your personal goal?
Oh, my personal goal. I think I have a number of different personal goals, but they kind of revolve around being able to comfortably live as an artist.
Hmm.
That's the goal. That's the goal. I'm able to survive currently as an artist, but I'd like to like thrive a little more, you know, money wise, just because like we don't pay ourselves a lot as like members of the band. Like we try to use a lot of that money to propel the business forward,
Sure. Yeah, I understand that. Yeah.
and you kind of have to,
Yeah.
because you can't just be sucking the business dry. Um, so yeah, like that. I don't have like a timeline goal. I don't know. Like it's. I do want to continue the path that I'm on. I think I'm on a pretty good path. I feel great about my playing with KSC. I feel great about my like new production roles.
Mm-hmm.
I got into like doing my own full own sessions, engineering them for the first time this year in a professional studio. So that was a big goal of mine. Um, and like just getting more mixing clients that I can do would be great. On a somewhat more personal basis or more frequent basis. I guess also I would love to teach at some point, like teach saxophone or teach my version of entertainment
Mm.
to people who are interested. But I haven't yet found a way to execute that. I have a roommate. I live in a tiny-ish spot, so when the time is right, I'll execute that. But I know
So
that's like a huge lifeline for musicians making money is like teaching, it's something I don't engage in perhaps
a lot
enough.
of people on the people on the internet have done very well doing that.
Yeah. Oh,
They
yeah. I guess you can do it over Zoom and
yeah,
whatnot.
online
Yeah.
stuff. Well, and then here's my lessons. They're $100. Here's the book or whatever, what and
Yeah.
I really
Yeah. Great
like your
chatting.
band. I hope that, you guys continue the success. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the chat, and hopefully we will catch up either in Texas or on Zoom again.
Okay. You have a good afternoon. We'll see you later.
You
Bye.
too. Bye bye now.